Hello, everybody. My name is Angam Ngamgietsap. I'm a staff software engineer at IBM, and today our TTEC session would be on the 1053 Lease Foundation. Continue to the other session that we already have that had been done by Saptashi. So for our agenda for today, I would like to talk about the two topics. First is the interest method or enhancement that we had done for the 1053 release, as well as the GAAP index lease. So for the 1053 release, we added another field called the interest method on the application settings, lease application settings tab. So now the user will have an option to choose between the simple interest or compound interest. And if by default out of the box, the default would be simple interest, and if for some reason the field is leaving as blank, the calculation would be done as the simple interest as well. So you can see this is the screenshot that I take on the application settings record. It's on the lease accounting settings tab. And you can see there that the interest method has two options. You can either choose whether it's going to be simple interest or compound interest. So the next topic would be the GAAP index lease. So SAP already did for the IFRS, and now I'm going to go over for the GAAP lease. So the enhancement that we do here, there's like three main points for the GAAP. First of all, on the payments. So now when you set the index clause to have a minimum percent increase, so the minimum percent will be applied, and it is going to be included in the payments, which is on the payment line items. And it's going to be part of the minimum lease payment, which is the net rent amount on the fiscal line items. The second point, it would, when you submit or issue an index adjustment calculator with the real, for example, CPI percent increase. So the real percent will be adjusted on the payment line item for the affected period only. And for the subsequent payment periods will be adjusted using the minimum percent increase, but now based on the new payment adjustment. So the base rent is now increased based on the CPI adjustment. Therefore, the minimum percent increase for the subsequent year or frequency, it would be based on the new adjustment now. I will show you what I mean here in a minute in our demo system. So the last point, it would be that the amount difference between the index adjustment and the minimum percent adjustment, it will show as the variable lease payment column in the operating finance schedule. So next, I'm going to just go to our demo system. And then I have already set up Lease just to reduce the time in the demo here. So first of all, we're setting up the record. So in this particular lease, I have the lease commencement date on the 7/1/2014. And my expiration date, it would be 6/30/2019. So exactly like 4 years lease. So I set up, the contract details. I also have the payments. So now when I set up a payment, I only will have one base rent, which is $50,000 from the starting, from my commencement date and then until the expiration date, so which is 6/30/2019. So on the clause tab, now I also set up, I create a new rent type, and when I check this include in index adjustment, so now I set this clause as index adjustment. So I set the cost index to be CPI. So my adjustment would be annually, and the first adjustment would be the second year after my commencement date. My commencement date is 7/1/2014. So now my first adjustment would be 7/1/2015. So in this clause, I also have the minimum percent increase of 2, and then the maximum to be S4. And then I associate that payment schedule, which will tell me that this base rent is where I have to apply this minimum percent on. Once you've done that, you just save and close this record. And now the lease admin is done setting up the payment. So now he or she can go submit for accounting review. So once she or he does that, then it will come to the lease. Now we see how it do the calculation on the payments. So this is the second record. Once I already submit for the accounting review, which is as a lease admin, I already submit for the accounting review. So now it will go to the lease finance or accountant. So once he sees that, he can see that the payments itself, my base rent is $50,000, but you can see that the first year only it will show $50,000 amount on the payment line item. But for the second year, it would apply the 2%, which is the minimum percent that be added in the index clause. So that minimum percent on top of the $50,000 base rent, it would now become $51,000 for the first year of the adjustment. So then for the third year, now my base rent is changed again because from it using the base of the previous year. So now my base rent is now $51,000, but I have to add the 2 minimum percent increase that I set on the clause on top of that. So it will now become $52,020. And the same thing will be done for the third year, fourth year, and so on. So now the total amount, total rent it would now become $3.122 million. So now once I'm seeing this, right? So now it will go to my lease accountant. So the lease accountant would log in, and then he would just open this record, the third record, which now he will see that, oh, I already have lease that I need to enter the accounting start date, accounting end date, and make sure that I have done the lease treatment. So in this record, I already have set up the accounting start, accounting end, as if I logged in as an accountant. So I would come on the accounting tab, and then I would just go to the to set up the accounting start date, accounting end date, the lease treatment, and then I also calculate the lease treatment. Once I do that, then all the NPV will be generated and then will be calculated, and then it will just do the lease classification and lease treatment for me. So in this example, I'm just doing it turns out to be the operating lease. So what I'm doing here is that you can look at my net rent for the 840 schedule, which is the straight line rent schedule. It will now the same as if the net the payment that we did for the payment line item. So the first year itself, it will only show $50,000, which is my my payment for the first year. And then for the second year, because it does have the minimum percent, then it will become 51,000. And then the third year would be 5220. And overall net rent payment column of the straight line schedule, it would be the total of 3.122, which is equal to the net rent payment that shows on the payment line item. So now we're gonna go see the schedule of the operating schedule. So the operating schedule is also the same thing. So if you see the net rent payment, so the first year would be 50,000, second year would be 51,000, third year would be 5220. So at the total of the net rent payment column, it would be 3.122 as well. So this is just the first time. It's like initial lease. There's no real index adjustment or CPI adjustment at this point. It only applies the minimum percent that we set in the index clause. So now everything looks good. So I just activate the lease. When I logged in as a lease accountant, I just activate this lease once the schedule looks correct. So when I close this record, and once the CPI index adjustment is known or issued, so I log back in, and on the activation of the lease itself, my lease is already activated. So I log back in, and now I see that my index adjustment calculator had been created after the first activation, after the lease has been activated. So you'll see that I have 3 for this lease. One is for 7/1/2015 until the end of the lease term. The second one is from the second year of the adjustment, which is 7/1/2016 until the lease term. And the last year would be on the last index adjustment calculator would start from 7/1/2017 until the end of the lease term. So in this example, I'm just going to do the first one. So let's say that in year 2015, I have the CPI adjustment of 3%. So my base index, let's say it's 100% or 100, and then my new index would be 103, which is 3% of the previous one. So now I click on this calculate. You see that now the actual adjustment on top of the base rent would be $1,500. So the $1,500 is just for that annual year. So if I issue this, click on this issue, then it would just apply the actual adjustment on the 7/1/2015 year. Okay? So now I'm just gonna close this, and then just for the sake of saving time, I already created one. So on the step 5, when I already issued an index adjustment calculator of the first year. So to see that, I can just show you here that I already issued this record. So coming back to see on the payment side. So on the payment side, the first year is still gonna be 50,000. It will not change. But for the second year, it was 51,000 before, so now it becomes 51,500, which is the 3% instead of 2% minimum increase, right? And then for the third year, it was $52,020. So now it is also changed because the base is changed. So it's 2%. Now it's become 2% because it's only for that annual that adjusts with the real percentage. But for the next annual year, it would adjust based on the new base rent, which is now $51,500. So 2% of $51,500 is now $52,530. And for the third year, so it will change again because my base is changed. It was $52,020, and now it's changed to $52,530. So 2% of $52,530 is $53,580 and 60 cents. So now instead of 3.122 total rent, it is changed to 3.147. Okay. So now I again locked in as accountant. So you see because of that, you see that on the 840 schedule, does nothing change. The total net rent is still going to be 3.122, no change. But for the operating schedule, the net rent payment is going to be the same, 3.122. Your net present value and your asset and everything else would stay the same. The only change is on the variable lease payment column. So before it was all zeros, right? Because you don't have the difference between the real CPI adjustment and the minimum percent adjustment. So now you remember that it was with the minimum percent is 51,000, but with the real percent is now $500 different, right? So 51,500, which is the CPI adjustment of 3%, minus 51,000, which is only 2% adjustment. So 1% difference. So that 1% is $500. So this variable lease payment is gonna be calculated between the difference of the real adjustment and the minimum adjustment. So the first adjustment year would be $500. Second year would be $510, and then it will go like that. So once you do the calculations between 3.122 here plus the amount of the variable lease payment, it will be equal to the total payments that you had paid, which is 3.147. And that is all that I would like to talk about in today's topic. And everyone has a good day. Thank you.